How's it going, everyone? Wayne the Unknown here, and welcome to Cosplay Content, where we basically discuss everything pertaining to the cosplay community and conventions. Tonight, I am doing another segment on Get to Know That Cosplayer, and the featured guest for this episode is Madcap Cosplay. How you doing tonight, Sequoia?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm doing really well. So again, thank you for coming on for this podcast series to talk about, how you got into cosplay, how long you've been doing it, stuff like that. So as always with this interview segment, how long have you been cosplaying for?
I've been cosplaying for about 6.5, 7 years now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you remember where your very first cosplay was back then?
Yeah, it was Ruby Rose from Ruby.
I remember that. I remember seeing it at Medford Comic Con 2017.
Yeah, exactly.
So I guess what was it like cosplaying as her for your very first con?
She was amazing. I actually built her for Halloween, I think the year before. It just in my sewing class, and I didn't even know what cosplay was at that time. And then my mom's friend invited me to the Medford Comic Con on the day that it was happening. Like I didn't even know it was a thing. So I was just like, all right, I'll throw on a costume. Over. And then I was blown away by everything. Like it was so amazing. And I had no idea that that was even a thing. And with her specifically, she's such a fun and upbeat character. I just ran around being goofy the whole time. It was so much fun.
So usually there's a question I'll ask later about the cosplays. What was the process when it came to making her scythe weapon?
I actually didn't make her scythe. I really want to, and I got blueprints ready for it, but I never got around to it yet. But it's on my list of things to do.
Nice. Now you're gonna try to make it to where it turns into the gun, or is it just the scythe only?
No,
Oh,
I would love
right.
to get like the whole like twisting
Nice.
action. Yeah.
Um, so how did you hear about cosplay? Was it where your friend told you about it, or did you hear about it before that?
I don't think I had heard about it before that. I didn't really know it was a thing. Like I might have seen people like on Pinterest or something way back then that were doing it. I just didn't know there was like a name for it. So it was really just being at that convention that was the first time I'd heard about it.
Nice. And so what's it been like cosplaying for the past almost 7 years?
It's amazing. Like from the instant that I sort of got into it, I knew that it was going to be like my passion. Like I was really excited about it and always have been. And it's, an expensive and time consuming and a hard hobby to have,
That's an
but
understatement.
it's worth it. Every time that I go to a convention, I'm like, wow, yeah, this is why I do this. And I have so much fun dressing up and I just love it. So it's
Nice.
been amazing.
So aside from the local cons here in Southern Oregon, have you gone to any other con outside of Southern Oregon, or just the ones stuck to the ones here?
I went to Wizard World Portland and that was an amazing experience.
It's
I
a
had
pretty
so many
big
fun.
con.
Yeah, it was really fun. And I went to a con in Concord, California, and mostly just Portland cons. Like I went to KomoriCon this year, and I'm planning to go to one in Seattle later this year. So yeah,
Oh, nice. How was KomoriCon 2021?
it was great. I mean, it was a little like I haven't been to very many big cons. Like Wizard World was the only other one. That was a while ago. So I was kind of blown away by how they had all of the events organized and there was so much to do. Like there was panels every 10 minutes and that was wild to me. I hadn't seen that before. So it was amazing. It was fantastic.
Nice.
Yeah.
So one question I usually ask right away, for first-time con goers, especially if they're considering going to their a big con for their first con, what kind of advice would you want to give to first-time con goers who want to go to a big con?
Hmm. Well, I mean, in general, I would suggest going to a smaller con first just to get accustomed to everything. But if you are planning to go to a big con, I would say always go with a friend or a group of friends and like always stick together, like buddy system kind of thing.
Always
And
have an
just
exit buddy.
yeah. And don't be afraid to be weird. Like that's the whole like, I think of weird as a good thing. Like I think of it as unique, but like don't be afraid to dress up and
Be
run around
yourself.
and have fun and just be yourself. And yeah, absolutely.
Nice.
Hmm.
So, what was your very first cosplay build, a cosplay that you yourself did specifically aside from Ruby?
let's see, there was Ruby, and then after Ruby, I did Edward Scissorhands, like a gender bent Edward
I
Scissorhands.
remember seeing that on your Instagram.
Yeah, it's based on a like a figurine that I saw, and
I
so
I I think I know what exactly figure you're talking about. It's like gender
yeah,
bent versions of horror icons.
yeah, exactly.
Nice.
So I did Scissorhands, and with Scissorhands, it was also for Halloween, and I was doing it like the morning. I was finishing the hands like the morning of Halloween, and so that was crazy making. And then after that, it was Bakugo for Wizard World. That
Yeah, I
was
mean, you got his gauntlets right behind you too.
yeah, yeah, they're right there.
So before I ask about those, what did you use to make the hands for your Edward Scissorhands cosplay?
I actually have them here, so I can grab them and show you. But so there's all kinds of things interlocked. So most of it is construction paper and the like wooden sticks.
That
Like
way, that doesn't look like construction paper.
yeah, it's the popsicle sticks surrounded by construction paper, and then they have to have like the holes for the fingers and stuff. And then like with the other one here, I have I used an eyelash curler for one of the pieces that came off, and then this is like a salad tong handle. So it was just a bunch of like random like and then like nuts and bolts and stuff.
I know you're like definitely known for making like props. I remember the screw you had for your Stein cosplay from
Yeah,
Soul Eater. Um, I
that was
think, sorry,
sorry, what'd you say?
I think I asked you before. What did you use to make Stein's screw head thing?
So it's like a paper mache cylindrical box that I cut, and then I put a like a party popper inside. It's like they have like a stick on the end and you twirl them around and they make the clacking sound. So I installed that into the like rod of the screw, and so
Right.
that it would turn when I turned the screw.
I know you're definitely known for cosplaying a lot of male characters. Who would you say your favorite male character has been to cosplay so far?
Definitely Bakugo.
Yeah, I
He's
remember
it's just the default. Like he's just so much fun.
the angry gremlin, basically.
Yep.
Speaking of, what was the process of going to making Bakugo, especially his mask and his his grenade gauntlets?
So a lot of people ask me how long it took to make Bakugo, and I'd like to say it took about a month and a half, but it was kind of like a fever dream. Like I was doing all of it like all day, every day. And so like I barely remember what I did for it, and it was a while back, but the like the mask, you mean like the flares?
Yeah, the whole yeah that whole thing. I remember seeing at when you cosplayed him at I think it was at Animedford, I think it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess basically explain the process for Bakugo from what you can remember.
Yeah, so I mean everything takes like I do probably 20 hours of research for everything. So I researched everything and I found a YouTuber. His name is Lawrence Iwood,
I think
and
I've heard
he
of him.
had a bunch of patterns for like the shoulder armor, the knee pads, the gauntlets, and like tutorials for that. So I followed along with all of his tutorials, and my room was entirely covered in like those piece mats that you get that like you used to get before they had like EVA
Yeah,
foams.
I've heard stories about using yoga mats for
Yeah,
armor and everything.
yeah. So it was a lot of that, and then like all the Bakugo shell pieces like on the outside were like cutting each individual one out, which took forever, and having to constantly buy new blades and stuff because the EVA foam eats through utility knives like nobody's business.
I believe it.
Yeah. And then the flares, they're also construction paper, and then it's like layered, and then I acrylic painted over the top of them to get the color that I wanted. And then they're just attached to like the elastic band, and then I have the mask over the face is like 2 millimeter foam that I heat shaped to like a plastic mask template that you can get at like craft stores to make sure
Nice,
we actually contour right.
nice. What's it like using a heat gun for your cosplays?
The heat gun is the best thing in my life. I when I was first making it must have been Bakugo, I think. I must have been making it. I was living in this small apartment at the time, and we had like an electric stove, and I knew that I needed heat, but I didn't have the money for the heat gun at the time, so I was like standing over the
Gotta
stove.
do. I mean,
Pieces.
I mean,
Holding up.
people use stoves to dye their wigs and other
Yeah,
stuff for their cosplays.
yeah.
Oh, jeez, that must have been, you know, I imagine. I know people. The first time I ever heard of a heat gun or seen one being used was like for people that used it for like to put armor pieces over their boots.
Oh, uh-huh, yeah. Yeah, you would need it for that kind of thing, especially depending on, like, the density of the foam. Some fold really easily, and some you have to, like
Pretty much.
yeah.
Back to Bakugo. How much do the his grenade gauntlets weigh?
That's a good question. I've never actually put them on, like, a scale or anything. I'd say they probably weigh between 5 and 10 pounds? I don't that may be a little much, but I always like, whenever I wear them the next day, my shoulders and, like, arms and are super sore, so they
Oh, I
don't
mean,
feel like much when you put them on, but when you're wearing them for, like,
and you're
10
walking
hours,
around and
like
everything.
yeah.
By the way, wanted to congratulate you on the contest from I think what was it Anna Medford. You won as Erza Scarlet.
Yes, thank you. It was
How
such an honor to
was that your first cosplay contest you entered?
No, actually, I entered Bakugo in Wizard World, and I won Best Hero, I believe. They had categories. So, I won that one as well.
Nice. And which version of Urza Scarlet did you cosplay again? I can't fully remember what version because I know she has different tons of outfits and throughout the anime.
Yeah, that's fair. It's the robe of Yuen, and it's the purple kimono. It's right here with the,
Yep,
like,
I see it.
trim. Yeah.
Nice. So, what was the process of making her spear?
The spear was actually I did that, like, the night before the con, like,
Oh, Con
like,
Crunch.
super easy. Yeah, it was a con crunch, and it was, like, the easiest part of the whole thing. But it when I first made it, I didn't put any, like you're supposed to put dowel rods in the middle of, like, foam, weapons because the foam part of the spear, like, that part
Hmm.
was just doing this all day. Like, it was just wilting because it
You
was so
basically had to
hot.
like keep it straight and everything.
Yeah, so I went back in and put a dowel back in it, but it was quite a thing.
What material is like the blade made from?
It's just foam. It's and then it's beveled along so I cut it at a 45-degree angle around the actual part where the blade is supposed to be so that it looks like it tapers off into a sharp point.
Nice.
Yeah.
One question I always ask if you're familiar with the series, ever had any cosplay mishaps like prop broke, something ripped, tore, fell off, or just kind of even like before the con, during the con, or even like during a cosplay competition?
Thankfully, I've never had any problems at a cosplay competition. I think I might have lost one of the grenades on Bakugo's belt at one point, but that was super easy. Like somebody just picked it up and handed it to me. But I have had mishaps all over the place. Bakugo has to be like almost completely redone every single time that I wear him. And then like I did Zagreus from Hades for KimuraCon this year.
I remember that one.
Yeah, and I was supposed to have 3 weeks, but then I got sick for a week, so I only had 2 weeks to work on it, and it was I had so many issues, like the big skulls on the shoulder, they were
Oh
held on
yeah.
with magnets, and so they just fell off. But mostly the greaves that I made, like I had Velcro attachments and they just popped right off.
Oh
So like I
no.
had to keep sticking them back on and like, so now I'm gonna remake them with like zippers on the back because it just didn't work. So yeah, I
Nice.
have mishaps a lot.
Now I also know when it comes to your male cosplays, you also sometimes wear chest binder that what's it called? I think it's also. Do you have you ever worn one of those fake male chest things?
I don't have one of the fake chests. I do have a binder and I've worn it for a few things. Like it doesn't it's not super effective for me, but it works on some characters like with Shinso, it's really good, but like with Bakugo, I'm just like he has pecs anyway, so like fine. But the male chest like thing I haven't explored yet. But I have thought about doing like the fantasy Bakugo. And if I was gonna do that, I would probably invest in one of those.
Now I remember, I think it was, I'm not sure if it was 2020 or 2019, you cosplayed as our artist friend's original character, I believe it was. And
Yeah, Luca.
yeah, what was that like? I remember like you were like had some difficulty with him. I'm not mistaken. You said I think you said like, you had difficulty with like the arms or something you were saying.
Yeah, there were quite a few. That was my first experience with like body paint. And then I tried to make like he uses energy to like he absorbs humans' energy, and so he has like these like energy wing kind of things. So I tried to make those, and I just didn't like it didn't go well. Like they just flopped in on each other. And then like the body paint, like when I was testing it, I realized like, oh, I have arm hair and body paint doesn't work well with that. So I had to deal with like a whole like I didn't really do anything about it. I just kind of went with it. But you know, because I was going with my artist friend, we had to be there at like 6 in the morning. So we had to get up at like 4 in the morning to do the body paint. And so it just kind of was a little rushed. And then I had this idea to do like a bodysuit and like gloves to paint, like to color them on so that I could just take them on and off because I was like, I'm not doing this body paint thing again. Um, but yeah, so I was gonna make like tattoo sleeve kind of things, but yeah, it was a whole body paint is an experience. And anybody
Oh,
who's done it will tell you that.
I know. I am familiar with body paint.
Yeah.
Mind giving your artist friend a shout out whose character you went as?
Yeah, it's McCole. McCole's webcomics and art. So I think it's McCole6161 on Instagram. She's a fantastic artist, does a lot of anime and like boys love stuff. So
Yep,
I recommend.
really good work.
Mhm.
So, now to what's that one cosplay that you have not done in so long that you would consider bringing back?
Hmm. I mean, a lot of them I actually end up wearing quite often. I would probably say like there are a few that I want to revamp, like my Stein. Like I want to make the coat smaller and like do some things, and my recent like Lust and stuff like that. There's some that I just have like ideas for how I want to improve them, but I think like probably Ruby. Honestly, she's not really like she I think she fit my personality better when I first did her, but I would love to like redo her whole dress and maybe even do like her new outfit with like the whole scythe thing and everything. Like that would be a cool thing to
Uh,
bring back.
oh yeah, no, she's definitely that's one character who's definitely gone through like a lot of outfit looks throughout the entire series of Ruby.
Yeah, for sure.
Now what's that one cosplay that it was kind of a one and done cosplay? Like you did it once and you didn't really like doing it because someone either asked you to do it or it was just, it just didn't really seem to do well for you.
Hmm. I honestly I haven't really had a whole lot of experiences like that. Um I mean there have been a couple like sort of closet cosplays or things where I did just like the makeup or something like that. But honestly, a lot of the time with the way that like I work, I usually like don't like I always try to choose characters that I know I'm gonna really like because if I don't, then I get really sad because I just spent so much money and time into doing it. Um, so a lot of times when I do something that I don't really like, my brain is just like, how am I gonna fix it and make it work and make it happen and make myself like this? Like, so usually it's more motivational than like me just kind of being like, nah, not no thanks.
I get it. Now you say you when you when it comes to cosplaying characters, you do your research. Is that something you would recommend for someone who's considering on cosplaying a character, or not do the research, or at least do some kind of research so they have an idea of what the character is like?
I mean, I personally would definitely just recommend cosplaying like characters that you relate to or really like make your heart sing, because you're always going to have more fun, in my opinion, when you're doing somebody that you really love, and so you get to embody that character. Um, I would always, research. I mean, it depends on whether you're doing like a more casual cosplay or if you're making the whole thing from scratch. There's definitely a difference there. Like, I would always research, like YouTube is my best friend. I find a lot of tutorials on there, and like there are specific people that I follow that I really like, but there are hundreds of tutorials, and there are all kinds of things where you can like take a method from some other cosplay, like somebody who's being like, oh, here's my Zagreus cosplay, and here's how you, and then you can go and apply it to something else that you're working on. Like, there's always skills that transfer over. So yeah, I always recommend doing your research and picking characters that you really resonate with.
Nice. Now, another question I always ask: what are your thoughts on thrifting for your cosplays? Whether it's a closet cosplay or it's something that you really can't make, but you can buy it for like a decent price. What are your thoughts on thrifting for cosplays?
Thrifting is fantastic. Like, I don't do a whole lot of it at this point. Like, I actually thrift a lot of like my everyday clothes, because I find like lots of little gems hidden in consignment shops or thrift stores or things like that. But especially like when you're beginning, or if you have like very simple pieces, like for instance, like if you're working on a build like Bakugo, and like he just has like plain black baggy pants, like you're spending hundreds of hours building the gauntlets and stuff like that, you don't need to make the pants too, in my opinion. Like, sometimes you're just like, I don't really want to spend the extra 10 hours it's going to take to make a pair of pants that I could find easily in a thrift shop. So I always recommend finding base pieces, like things to work off of, or any kind of things. I know that thrift shops oftentimes have better sizes for people. I recently got my Howl pants for my Howl and Sophie photo shoot from
I actually saw that. It was really a really well done photo shoot.
Oh, thank you. I was so excited about it. So yeah, thrifting's great.
Nice. Let's see here. What's another question I always ask? Well, it's one I usually don't ask till later. Ever had like any cosplay horror stories you'd like to share, or funny experiences you had throughout your years of cosplaying?
I don't really have much of any horror stories, which I'm very thankful for, but I do have a great convention story. So when I went to Wizard World in Portland, that was what I built Bakugo for, and it was my first big convention, right? So I was like on the website, looking at all the guests and all the actors that were going to be there, and like all this, and
Do the research.
yes. And my friend, I had a few friends come up with me, and my friend that I hadn't met in person before, but my friend for like 2 years from Germany, we were like pen pals. She flew in, so it was already like an amazing experience just to be there with her. But I was looking on the website, like 2 weeks before the convention. Like, we had bought tickets months ahead of time, but like 2 weeks before the convention happened, Justin Briner showed up on the guest list, and he's the English voice actor for Midoriya from My Hero. And I was like, oh yes. So I got super excited. And then I went when I knew he was going to be there. So I was in Bakugo, and it was my first time debuting Bakugo, and like I immediately, like the first hour of the convention, I went and I was like peeking my head around the corner just
Trying
to
to
like
find him.
suss it out and like see what I was gonna do. And so I peeked my head around the corner, and he sees me. I thought there was gonna be like a huge line, right? Like, so like nobody was
Because
gonna notice me, but there's like
how well
nobody there
known
for some reason.
it
Yeah.
is.
And so he looks over at me and he goes, "Kachan!" in his Deku voice, and I was like, so I was like, "Hi,"
You were
and then
basically fangirling.
yeah, and then I went and, like, ran away, and I was like, "Okay, I need a minute." So I spent like an hour like composing myself, and then I went back and got some photos with him, and he was super sweet and fun to talk to. So that's my favorite convention story.
Nice. I think that's pretty cool when you ever meet one of your favorite voice actors, or they notice, you cosplaying like a character that they've worked with. Is pretty awesome.
Yeah,
Now you say you sew, right? Some of your cosplays.
yeah.
What's it? Do you hand sew or do you machine sew, or both?
I mean, so I'm so bad at hand sewing, but I took 5 semesters of fiber arts in high school. That's actually where I made my Ruby cosplay. Like my sewing teacher helped me make it. So I machine sew because it's I can't even imagine trying to hand sew. I like anybody who does that, like props, but it's I have issues just machine sewing. So
What's it like showing some of your cosplays?
sewing is like my least favorite thing to do in the cosplay realm. Like, you know, there's like wig styling and foam and sewing and the painting and stuff. And sewing just I run into so many issues. Like it's just not my sort of area of expertise, even though it's the thing that I've done the most. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. But every time I try to start a sewing project, I'm like, oh no. So like with Erza, for instance, her top, uh, I used a pattern and it had sleeves on it. And so I had to like come up with something to make it sleeveless, and it's a curved hem, which is very difficult to make look good.
That
So
sounds like it's a kind of a hard process.
yeah, because if you do it like if you don't do it right, then the fabric just puckers up all over the place on the hem, and so it doesn't look like clean and finished like you want it to. So I had to like I actually remade the whole thing from scratch because I couldn't get the seams how I wanted them. So I ended up having to clip them so that the fabric would stretch over the curve, and it was a nightmare. It took me like 2 weeks.
And you debuted her first at Animeford, right?
Yeah.
Nice. Now I know you went as a My Hero Academia character, Metal and you said like you had like added Magnus or something to your wig to keep his mask up. Who was that character, and how did you make that? How did you make that possible with the mask and the magnets and everything?
Yeah, so that was Shinso, and I actually have his mask right here. So um this you can see the magnets inside here. So
Yeah.
this was another pattern I got from Lawrence Iwood. But basically I don't remember exactly where I saw the idea for the magnets. Like in his tutorial, he had an elastic band, I think. So I don't really remember where the magnets idea came from, but I got super into like the idea of magnets for attaching things because like Velcro, I was having so many issues with it. And with this one, it sits like low enough down that if I had an elastic strap, it
Hmm.
would just sit like slide down to the back of my neck, so it wouldn't actually like stay on correctly. So I was like, okay, what are other things that I could do to attach this? And so I just stuck magnets, like they're just sticky magnets, and so I stuck them in the insides of this, and then there's like tabs on the wigs that I was using. So there's like the tabs that come down right next to your eyes.
Hmm.
And so there's a little bit of extra like room there on the wig. And so I just put the magnets in there, and then they just go through. They're strong enough magnets that they go through the wig and attach.
That's really impressive. How long did it take you to make the mask?
The mask, I worked on it over like a longer period of time. So I would say probably like in total, it was probably about a month and a half.
And that's a pretty good pro tip, you know, if you can attach magnets underneath your wig and your like your mask, especially with a bunch of cons. It kind of worked out that you having that mask, especially with with COVID and everything and restrictions and whatnot.
Yeah, it was perfect actually, and I think it's a good tip, like, for certain things, because I actually tried it for Bakugo's flares at KomoriCon, and they just rotated all over the place the whole time. It was really bad. So, like, test things before, like, I was like, "Oh, magnets are the solution to everything," and they were not.
Nope, they say that about duct tape. No, it's not. What would you say your favorite cosplay has been? Like, it's one you always enjoy either working on or cosplaying, aside from Bakugo.
I was gonna say it's always Bakugo. Aside from him, um, I don't know, it's so subjective. Like there are some cosplays that just make me feel really good about the way that I look, or some that I have really fun just portraying the character or like things. So there's always kind of a difference. I would say though that um Erza is probably like my second favorite in comparison to Bakugo. And I mean she's such a different experience.
Yeah.
And you know, part of why Bakugo's so fun is because everybody like freaks out over him. And with Erza, it's like not as many people know it, but I'm like, go watch Fairy Tale. It's really good. So I get to spread the love of Fairy Tale, and she's just
Nice.
such a great character. She's like my favorite female
Nice.
character in all of anime. So like able to portray such an amazing person. That's
She's
so cool.
she's definitely a fan favorite of mine as well. Do you ever plan on doing like her default outfit that she wears in the like the first episode?
Yeah, I think it's like called like the Heart Kreutz armor.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that one. Yeah, I mean, I thought about it. I think, you know, making the robe of Yuen I made actually because I wasn't even gonna cosplay Erza because I really her Heaven's Wheel armor is on my like dream bucket list. And so I was like, oh, I don't really want to bother making the other
Her heaven,
cosplays.
is that the like where it shows like she has like the wings and everything?
Yeah.
Okay, because I know there's also like the her samurai looking one where she has that giant sword.
Yeah, that one's really cool. She just has so many cool ones. But the Heaven's Wheel is the one where she has like the big skirt and the big wings and like the swords all around.
I remember that. I remember seeing that episode very well, and it's just like
Yeah.
that's gonna be a big project.
It is. I don't even know how I'm gonna do it yet, but it's been on my bucket list, like cosplay bucket list for the entire time I've been cosplaying. So
Nice.
yeah, but I actually made the robe of Yuen because I was like, okay, this is a summer con. I wasn't sure how much of it was going to be outside or inside. So I was like, all right, what's
That's more insight, that's for sure.
yeah. And I was like, okay, so what's a cooler, like, you know, not as hot to wear cosplay I could make, and that's what I landed on. But having done that one, I'm like, okay, I want to make like every other armor ever. So yeah.
How many armors does she have? Because I know of her default one she wears with like the chest plate, her
Mhm.
blue skirt, white
Yeah.
shirt, and boots and everything. And then there's the one you did. There's her one where she wears like the red pants, and then her heavenly one.
Yeah, there's probably about 35 to 40 total because some of them she just like puts on for like 10 minutes and that's like it. Like it's only in 10 minutes of the show or whatever. But there are like just tons because she has one for like every element. Like she has Lightning Empress and like a Sea Empress and like so like she has like just it's a lot. But there's so many good ones.
No, I think you were saying you cosplayed it. I think you said you cosplayed as Lust from Full Metal Alchemist.
Yeah. That was my kind of thrown together Halloween costume for this last year. And it was just like with Halloween, like I like to do more Halloween-y cosplays.
I
Like, you
mean,
know,
she is technically is kind of considered that.
yeah. Cause I mean, like she's, you know, like she's a villain or whatever. So, you know, I've done like Scissorhands and Stein and Danny Phantom, like so I try to kind of keep around like the theme. So Lust was part of that, but it was kind of like I was working on KomoriCon stuff at the same time. So it was really like quickly thrown together. But I actually really enjoyed cosplaying her. So I want to make like her big like nail spear
Oh yeah, I
things.
was just about to yeah ask. I know she has like in the anime she has those yeah.
Yeah, it's called like the ultimate spear or something, I think.
Let's see now. Any advice for first time cosplayers, whether they're, you know, they're just wanting to get into it or they've been doing it for a while?
Hmm. I mean, there's a lot of things that people say as sort of general advice. I would say like don't be afraid of what people are thinking of you. Like if you go to a convention, because the reality is most people are thinking about what's going on with them and they're not going to be judging you. They're like when you're thinking, "Oh gosh, my makeup isn't right or my hair isn't right," or they're probably also thinking the same thing about themselves. So they're probably not thinking, "Oh, your makeup isn't good." They're probably thinking, "Oh, my makeup isn't good." Like, so just be, you know, try to have as much fun as you possibly can at a convention, um and without worrying about other people, because we all, you know, cosplayers for the most part and like people who go to conventions are some of the most like accepting and fun people that you can be around in general. So there's that, and then in terms of, like, making things, um, lots and lots of research, and this is kind of a thing that I have to remind myself of a lot is, you know, a lot of people talk about trial and error in processes and, like, art processes and things like that, and the reality is every time you mess something up, which is going to be a lot, um,
True, it is.
always the next time you do it, it's gonna be that much better because you know not to do this thing that you just did. Like, I was working on a sword 2 days ago, and I ripped the whole thing in half on accident.
What?
So,
Whose sword?
Zagreus.
Oh, from Hades.
Yeah. So, I ripped the whole thing in half and, like, cried about it for, like, half an hour. And
I
right?
feel like when you have that, when you like you met you like when you're making a cosplay, there's always like crying, yelling,
Oh, yeah.
cussing, and just like work
Throwing
on something else, or
yeah,
throwing it
yeah.
because you're angry.
Yep. So, but then out of that, I went and I had to buy new foam for it and things like that, but I also went and bought, like, a better utility knife for it, and I managed to get the beveled edge a lot cleaner the second time than I did the first time because I was sharpening my blade the whole way through, and I wasn't doing that the first time, so it ended up turning out a lot better than it did the first time, and so I think that's a thing that just is good to remember that every time that you make a mistake, it's the next time you work on it, it's going to be that much better. Just give yourself like some time and space to like process and don't try to do it when you're frustrated.
Yeah, some sound advice. Um, a few more questions. About your Zagreus, what did you use to make the skulls on his armor? Because I can kind of see him in the background right behind you.
They were so there were some YouTube tutorials I was watching, and one of them recommended a pattern from Kamui Cosplay, which I
Her
follow so many
her
tutorials.
her cosplay builds, her her having her help from her husband is just
Yeah, it's I have some of her books
like
I got some of her books for Christmas and stuff, like, oh, she is one of my favorite YouTubers to watch on.
The EVA foam queen, basically.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So she has some patterns for, like, animal skulls. So, they were, I think, wolf skulls, and then, like, the YouTube tutorial I was watching used her pattern and then changed some parts about it, like the jaw and, like, the horns and stuff, so I sort of took inspiration from that, and it was one of the most complicated foam builds I've ever done because they look really, like, simple
Would
from,
you
like
mind showing a close up shot of him if you're able to?
let me grab one. They're actually they're in process right now because I wanted to shave the jaw line down a little bit,
Oh,
so
I mean, those look pretty cool. I mean,
thanks.
I played a bit of the game myself a while back,
Mhm.
and I mean his armor is pretty cool. What made you want to cosplay as Zagreus from Hades?
Oh, I just kind of loved him from the second that I saw him. And I was like, yeah, I've always been a huge, like, hugely into Greek mythology and all kinds of stuff. And that game, like, and my first video game it was called Fate, and it was a dungeon crawler. And
I've heard
so
of that.
yeah, and I played hundreds of hours of that thing. So it was just like the upgraded dungeon crawler experience with like really pretty people and like Greek mythology and all that kind of like it's just such a good game. So I really wanted to pay tribute to it. I'm also planning to do Megara, who's like one of the Furies. And like I don't know, I just really liked him. So
Nice.
yeah.
So two more questions. One I try to ask and sometimes I forget. You've mentioned some. What other? So what's like that one dream characters you like always wanted to do, but you know you've never had the time, money, or like the stuff to do them.
Yeah. So Iron Man is one of my big dream cosplays. I want to make like the whole armor suit with like the reactor and the pulse fires and everything. Um, that is quite a bit into the future. uh,
Oh, definitely.
yeah, and then the Heaven's Wheel armor we already talked about. One that I'm planning to work on a little sooner is Genos from One Punch Man. Um,
Is
with
he the
like,
one with the? Is he Satyama's friend with the like the robot arms?
yeah, he's a cyborg. So he has like the big robot arms that like go and like get bigger and bigger.
I know who exactly you're talking about.
Yeah. So I'd like to do that, but I need to figure out how to do like LEDs and maybe smoke effects, something like that. So that's what I want to do for him. Yeah, I mean, I have all sorts of like hundreds of cosplans, but those are like Iron Man and Erza are like the ones that I feel like I really couldn't do yet. Like I don't have enough experience to really nail it the way that I want to. So
As you know, as people say, trial and error. You know, start with like the smallest, like the easiest piece, and then slowly work your way. I mean, like you
yeah.
said, there's always YouTube tutorials. There's cosplayers on Instagram. I know of a cosplayer who's built like Pepper's iron iron suit, and it looks
Oh, that's
they have like moving parts and everything, which is pretty
wow.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah,
really well done cosplay. I think they go by SR Ona, I believe.
very cool. I'll have to check it out.
She's made a Iron Man cosplay with the head going up and down, and then like the
Yeah,
backs and everything.
that's awesome.
But that'd be pretty cool to see. I don't think I've seen Heavenly Urza before. That's gonna be pretty interesting to see, especially with like the wings and everything.
Yeah. I wings are a thing that I really like want to play around with. Like I saw some Hawks cosplayers at KimoriCon and I was like, ooh, kind of want to do that. So I might mess around with some wings, but they're daunting.
No, I believe it. So before we end this, any last minute advice you'd like to give to those who are listening to this?
Hmm. I don't know. I just, be safe, be conscientious of other people, like always try to be kind and understanding, and then, keep your own boundaries with other people in the community. And then just, I mean, really the baseline of cosplay and making things and everything like that is just to have fun. So just keep having fun and just, yeah, I don't know. That's kind of all I got is just have fun with it because
Uh,
that's the
as as the word goes, cosplay is for everyone. Don't
yeah,
listen to the cosplay whoever you want. Don't listen to the gatekeepers. And like you said, just have fun.
absolutely, for sure.
I think that should about do it. Again, Sequoia, thank you for coming on to for this cosplay con talk interview and everything. And as always, I'm Yuen the Unknown. Thank you for listening to this episode of Cosplay Con Talk, and until next time, thank you for watching.